And we're live right now, right? So people are hearing us have this conversation, correct?
Yes, we are
Yeah,
live.
that's good. I love that. I love the authenticity
Yeah,
of
yeah.
real, true conversations.
That's why I like this because it's unscripted. It's as authentic as you can get.
It's good.
So my audio is clear and my video is clear, right? All right, we're gonna
Yeah,
get
you look great, man.
going. All right, thank you. All right, look at that book in the background. We're talking about the book. Finally, I got one of those.
You do. Look at that. Even with the complete with the bookmark. Yes.
I do have, and the bookmark, right? I want people to see it because it's
Yeah.
bookmark with
Yeah.
your name on it. All right, cool. All right, Mark, I am so glad to be having this conversation with you. I found a really quiet room where nobody's going to disturb me. There's no sound um, interference because I don't have a cool little space like yours. You are a pro podcaster now. You're obviously author and you've sold all these books for Yeah Bud. And let's talk about the book first. I want to just for the people who are in already, what is the book Yeah But about, and tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, so it's 14 years in the making because I tried to ignore, avoid, and not want to write a book. Unlike a lot of other people on Substack who are anxious and excited to write a book, I'm a speaker. So there was something that was so prevalent that I heard in my career, which was always these words, yeah, and then but. So, yeah is the positive part, but the but negates it. And I kept hearing it about many different things that we all hear about. Yeah, but I don't have time. Yeah, but what if I fail? Yeah, but what's the plan? And I heard so many of these that I thought, you know what? This is actually something that I don't think there's a yeah, but specific book. And if I hear this in the language that people say it, this might be something where it actually helps people overcome a yeah, but that even I had. So let's do it.
So it was a decade in the making.
Yeah, it was 14 years of me saying no because I knew I was supposed to write a book because I got this idea when I first moved to Tennessee from
Yeah.
New Jersey. And when I came here and I was in my coaching classes to become a certified coach and added to my consulting business of being a strategist, I kept hearing these yeah buts early on in my career. And I was like, whoa. And I heard them outside of coaching. And it was one of these things that I was like, I was yeah butting. Well, yeah, but I'm basing my whole career on this book. If this book is a failure, if you get 1-star reviews from enough people, they're going to think you're horrible, even if you're not an author. That's the way they view you. So that was my limiting belief in my yeah, but was if this hurts my career, how miserable will I be since I've always owned my own business? I didn't think, well, if this helped my career, how amazing could it be? Because this isn't what I thought I needed to do, write a book.
Yeah. So you took all those years to overcome your yeah but, which was kind of the outcome was the book itself, that you worked through a lot of the yeah buts that you heard from people that you coach. So tell us about your background, as to all the lessons you learned. Like these are all, there are 16 yeah buts in this book, right? Each one of them is a problem that every single person overcomes or faces and has to overcome. But you heard these from a lot more people, right? Because you're a coach.
Yeah, so I've heard it. So I started my career to answer your original question about. I've always owned my own business since I was 16, and that was 40 something years ago. So I've always owned a business. And when I was working with technology, Macintoshes early on, I would hear the yeah, but they're Macintoshes, and we're a PC house,
Hmm.
right? And that was true. 98% of the computers were PCs, and there was this small percentage of Macintoshes. This was in the 90s, right? And it was yeah, but those are what the creative people use, right? Or, yeah, but they don't really do real work on those Macintoshes. So I was hearing it in many different aspects. It's not just, yeah, but I don't have time. I heard it in coaching too, because that was the limiting belief people had about, yeah, but what's the plan? When you're coaching an executive or you're coaching someone who's really strategic and they want to know what all the list of things are, they want to know
Right.
what the outcome's going to be. So whatever you hear, right? These yeah buts, it's it's a limiting belief, and either it's holds you back because you heard it in fifth grade or fourth grade, like I did, when my teacher said, "Yeah, but you don't know how to write real well," and she proved it by all the red marks on my white piece of paper. It looked like word murder. I mean, it was just lots of red pen. So I didn't think I was like, okay, maybe she's right. And I kept that for a long time because speaking was a lot easier. So I was like, maybe she's right.
Yeah.
Well, I realized that with good editors and other things, you can overcome yeah buts. And that's what I saw with every one of these yeah buts is some people can overcome yeah buts that they've heard in their head from others or from themselves.
But everybody struggles with it though, right? I mean, some people overcome it, but not all of it, right? I mean, everybody's got something that's limiting, right? The
Yep.
noise, like you said, like cut through the noise to live, learn, and lead better, right? And the noise is always in our heads, and it's more prevalent than before because of all the distractions and all the competition. It's gotten worse. I mean, not to diminish what what your teacher told you and what you felt back then, but kids these days, I
Mhm.
can't imagine what they're going through. It's not red marks they're worried about.
No,
it's
no, it's more
it's
social anxiety of what's going on. But see, so every generation has their own issues that they have to go through. And there's all things that hung us up in, our parents and our grandparents' generation was different, right? So there's always going to be something. But think about it this way. It's it's how you address the yeah, but, right? It's how you look at things. And because I'm specifically an executive who works with teams and leaders, so this isn't a therapy book. This isn't a self-help book where it's like, I'm gonna go into your past. I really talk about we've all experienced things that are in our heads that stop us from doing something. And one of the things, and from our conversations over a long time, is like when I see something, I kind of just say, I was like, why is that not possible? Right? What could happen if you do that? Like, I wrote a book, a guy who doesn't write books, right? And didn't want to write a book. And I wrote it in 18 months with real editors and real designers and everything else that any other writer would do. And I have 7 people now said they're writing books because I wrote a book. My book is not about writing books it, at all, but it is about belief and it is about seeing what's possible. And it is about like, why not now?
yeah,
So it's amazing when you do something that you didn't think was possible, how many people can be affected if you know how to communicate it and tell
yeah,
people why they should maybe read a chapter.
yeah. I mean, I just want to say from a personal note, I have seen your journey because we've known each other for such a long time. And I've seen the struggle of you trying to write that book. Um, I mean, before the book, to build your presence online on LinkedIn, and but you, I know you talk about this in the book, which is one of the yeah buts I have is like I have no time. Yeah, but I have no time, right? And that was one of, but you talk about how and then yeah but I don't have a plan, like, and then you over plan. um so
Mhm.
so all those, I mean, the beauty of this book is I can just open any one of these yeah buts and read through it again, you know
Mhm.
and it relates to me, so that's how I use it. I think I told you about that.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we go on, I want to make sure as I grab a copy off my shelf and,
Oh yeah.
and I want to just go over to 15 yeah buts because I think it's important to understand which those 15 yeah buts that are here because
Yeah.
it's and even the way I wrote it, Raj, right? I
Yeah.
did it because I was like, if you're going to write a book, not everyone wants to read 202 pages and 40,000 words. They just
Yeah.
don't. I mean, a lot of people on Substack love writing, love blogging, can't imagine not doing that. But there's a lot of people that are not Substackers that are just like writing is a chore and they don't think they're good at it. And they hate writing emails even because they're just like, people don't read them, you can misinterpret them. So here's some of the things that and to that point, let me kind of as I go through the 15 chapters. Yeah, but I'm not ready, right? Yeah, but somebody already did it. Yeah, but I don't have time. Yeah, but I don't know where to start. Yeah, but I don't know what to do next. Yeah, but what's the plan? Yeah, but I'm not sure I can do it. Yeah, but it's not safe. Yeah, but I need help. Yeah, but I'm too old or too young. Yeah, but you can't where I'm from. Yeah, but
Mm.
I'm not qualified. Yeah, but I don't feel successful. Yeah, but what are others going to say? Yeah, but what if I fail? And then the last chapters, yeah, but now what? So,
Yeah.
and there's 4 different case studies in there as well from people. But if you listen to those yeah buts, right? We've all said that. And I just like, this is just a real book that's not about me. It's about 25 different stories
Yeah.
from people that people know, like everything from Axl Rose to Andre Agassi, to people they don't know, like a person that flies solo around the world in a plane. So these are stories about people that have overcome their yeah buts, researched, and it presented in a way where people can look and go, huh, didn't know that. Wow, that's relevant. And it can also be like, yeah, that's still my yeah, but I can also understand that is it enough to hold me back? Is it
Right.
enough? Is it a compound effect of so many yeah buts that if I get rid of a few, I actually can overcome and do this next thing because you ain't getting any younger, right? If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? When you're 60 and when you're looking at it going, I want to leave a legacy. I feel like I need to accomplish something.
Yeah.
And we always have a reason why we can't. We're like, oh, I need healthcare or I need this or I need that. It's not a book for the rich or the poor. It's what it is a book about a mindset to help people really do something. Then once they do it, they never look back.
Yeah. But they do have to go through the cycle, right? It is a cycle though. Like I feel like, yeah, but I don't have time, or yeah, but I don't have a plan. I overcome it, right? And then it could come back to you, come back. I mean, it's almost like an evergreen book wherein, you have to go. I have it always accessible in within reach. I have an extra copy in my car, which I have not reached yet. it's, but you go through that multiple times, so it's not one and done. Like I can't learn time management and then things change. AI is in the picture, and then everything's changed. So there is an ever changing landscape.
Mm-hmm.
But your book and the Yabarts in it are evergreen because it's not for this moment alone, if that makes sense, right? It's
No,
for
no, it's
any
for
moment.
life, right?
Yeah.
And so it's interesting when I put the book out there, and there's a few things I want to bring up because again, I wrote it for the person who wants to read every word. That's a typical book. People read it, but there's not a story arc where you're like, if I pick up in one chapter, like, yeah, but not where I'm from is the only chapter where I talk about where I grew up. When I grew up poor, right? And I was on food stamps and welfare because my parents got divorced. And that's the only story about me. Everything else is about everyone else. And it's about you and about how it affects you because a book written about me is an autobiography. A book written for you is something that you're going to see yourself in these stories. So when you say, which I've heard many people tell me, I keep this because it's evergreen. I go through cycles. Yeah, but I don't have time. And then all of a sudden I call it drifting over time when you're like, I'm good at it. And then all of a sudden I go back to my old habits. That's
Yeah.
where coaching comes in, where I work with somebody to go, how do we make this your new standard?
Yeah.
Like making sure that you brush your teeth, right? Like you don't even think about it anymore. And people notice when you don't brush your teeth, right? Not you, but I mean collectively, right? So
Yeah.
people notice when you don't do certain things, but there's
Yeah.
other things that we do. So I think about this and I think just read the chapters that matter the most to you. So if it's, yeah, but I don't have time, we all have the same 24 hours. We all can do certain things. And what I talk about in the book, Raj, is like when people do things, especially now with this generation of being able to stream. I mean, I grew up when you had to actually set a VCR and then, or you had to actually be in front of TV because there wasn't VCRs and you actually had to watch it live. And then, I mean, how crazy is that? Being actually at TV and having to set an appointment to be there, or you miss the show and can't see it till it's a rerun. Wow, it's like 100 years ago. So think about it this way, where you're doing something and you're like, yeah, but I don't have time. And people say, well, I just want to go and unwind after a hard day. Great, so do I. So they'll binge watch, your favorite show, and they'll watch 6 episodes. And I asked them, I said, in the book, I was like, how do you feel after? I was like, did it accomplish the task you wanted, which is now you're relaxed, you feel great, the day has just drifted away. It's like being on vacation. And they're like, no, it's not anything like that. I said, okay, what could you have done with that time that would have brought you closer to saying you didn't have time and now you overcame that time limit?
Yeah.
And I saw that during COVID. People said they didn't have time. Then they had all the time in the world because they couldn't leave their house. And guess what? They still didn't do those things. I'm not here to reprimand you. I'm just trying to say, let's call it, it wasn't a time issue. It was a
Yeah.
I don't want to do it issue.
Prioritization issue. Like
Right.
you have an acronym for this. I know
It's
that.
called bumps, right? Best use of my prioritized time. And I think about that, like not going to meetings. This is where it works in work. Not going to meetings that you don't need to go to because you empower other people to be able to do things because you're like, well, I have to be seen there. I was like, really? So your team needs to see you. So you can never go on vacation because if you're not there, the organization stops at your Fortune 500 company?
No,
No.
it moves on.
So I just want to make sure we call out what to ourselves first, right? This is a book to help you because at the end of each chapter is a butt buster, which is lines. Thanks to my bride, my wife said, you should put lines in there. And I was like, no one's going to fill that out. And then people came and brought me their books and they were like, look, I filled out the whole book. And I was like, oh my gosh, overachiever. That's amazing
Yeah,
because they wanted to overcome it, right?
yeah, I plan to fill those out too, but it is that self reflection, right? Again, it takes time. So it's almost like a workbook too at the end of it, which I love because I like those. I remember Cal Newport's book about time management and having time blocks. He had a workbook version of it, which yours is a bit of both, right? So you've got that workbook, and I like that. So again, we have Alicia who joined. We're talking about Mark's first time author. He's his 18, 18 years, 18 months you took to write this book, but it was
Yes,
a decade in the making, right?
correct.
In a way, because of all the knowledge that you've gained from being an executive coach, culminates into this book where we have 15 earbuds. I said 16. I guess the 16 is now what, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's the next
that's the
one. Yes.
next that's the to be continued because we never run out of the earbuds. And so this is Mark's book. Larry Bone is here. He's also another first time author, and he had some questions for you, which we will get to at the end. Um, so so what was your biggest struggle out of all these 15 earbuds? Like I wanted to like which ones were your biggest earbuds that you had to overcome as you wrote this book? I mean,
What
what
are other people
resonated?
going to say? Right? It was yeah, but what are people going to think? What are they going to say? How is this going to be a reflection of me that makes me look better than if I didn't do it? Remember, if you're not a writer and you never write a book, no one cares, no one misses it. It's really not a thing. If you're a writer and you don't write a book, that's weird because they'd be like, you're a writer, you're supposed to write books. So to not write a book as a non-writer, no one would have missed it. So it's a risk to do something that you're not known for, no matter what your field is, right? But I think about this and I think when you take a risk doing something you don't normally do, what it allows you to do is have to stretch. It allows you to be more vulnerable. It allows you to grow. It allows you to go and have an MVP, a minimum viable product, right? Which is this book. It is my MVP. I didn't start with hey, I should blog for a little while. Hey, maybe I should make an ebook. Hey, maybe no. I was like, I'm going to be all in. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it professionally. I'm going to do it without handing it off to somebody, which I know you're going to ask me questions about later. I wanted to understand the process. I wanted to be able to do it, but I was really concerned about people saying this is really not great. This is everything that's been said before. And by the way, I opened the book with there's nothing new under the sun. Nothing I will say in that book
Hmm.
will be revelational for you, but by the person who says it, with the passion he says it, and the timing he says it, it may be the perfect time for you to read something you've read before. And think about that. You've read books before about time management or about overcoming obstacles or about anything. And you've been like, that's great. And then 5 years later, you read a different book or same book and you're like, oh my God, this book spoke to me. I'm like, did it change? No, you changed. So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, I think your book is different though. Like,
Hey,
and
don't be
this is
nice to me, Raj. I want you to rough
I'm
me
not.
up here. I mean, don't
No,
just
I'm I'm I'm,
platitude
be-
here.
I'm not being nice. I'm just trying to be honest here. So, um, the book is different because, like I said, you can pick up this book, unlike any other book about time management or anything, which kind of has a story arc,
Mhm.
which sometimes it's detrimental in my point of view because you kind of go through the story and then if the narrative works it's great, but you can also get bored really easily. I like books where I can just open up any chapter and then read it in 15 minutes, and have questions for me to write and reflect on that particular thing, almost like like a Bible in a way, right? I mean, you just open up that page and you figure out, and that might be the yeah, but I mean, again, you can look at it as a sign, as
Yeah.
what is the yeah, but I want to work on today.
Yeah.
So I think it's very different from the normal time management books out there, which is why I think I resonate with it a lot. And then I'm glad you wrote it. And again, it is case studies and examples, and you don't over elaborate on these things. Um,
I want to bring
you
up one
you stick
thing.
to the point. Yeah.
Well, I want to bring up some things because for no one, for people that have no clue about the book, I wrote this because I'm even a better marketer than I am a writer. So I think, how do people think? Right. So Raj, you brought up a great point. You can just read the chapters that are important to you.
Yeah.
So I also broke it down into 5 different sections because yeah, buts usually have there's usually not just one that slows people down. There's usually a group of them. And then I grouped them into time-based yeah buts, like the I'm not ready or somebody already did it or I don't have time. Right. Those 3 are time-based. Then you got path-based buts. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do next and what's the plan. Then you got worry-based buts. I'm not sure I can do it. It's not safe and I need help. Then you got demographic-based buts, which are I'm too old or too young, I can't where I come from, and I'm not qualified. And then perspective-based buts. I don't feel successful. Will others say or think? And what if I fail? So I wrote this book, so there's so many ways to go and address it that
Hmm.
you almost can't not read it, right? Like it's almost where you're like, I just tell people, if you don't have time to read a book, start with the, yeah, but I don't have time. Just read that chapter. And when they do, they're like, I read the whole book. And you know how many people have said to me, I feel like I'm a teacher all of a sudden. They're like, I read the whole book. And I was
Because you're
like,
a coach. Yeah,
yeah,
you're a
well,
coach.
they wanted to tell me, hey, I don't read a lot of books, but I read your whole book and it was really, really good. So that's regular people. But when you get endorsed by a New York Times bestselling author, multiple, who have nothing to gain and would never put their name on something that was substandard because they are actual writers, right? And not that people that aren't New York Times bestselling writers aren't authors, aren't writers. But what I'm saying is that this
Yeah.
is what they do for a living.
Yeah.
And when they endorsed my book and were like, Mark, this is really good, I was flattered. Did not pay them. I asked them, I said, would you read an advance copy? Would you tell me what you think? And if you like this well enough, please, would you endorse it? And they're like, yes. And that's an accolade because I just think that people that do something and that's what they do, when they say this is good, it's easier for them to ghost you and be like, say nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff, Raj, that makes me realize that overcoming a yeah, but has so many more positive ramifications that help so many people that you're just like, I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah. And for somebody who wants to write their first book, because I think, like you said, you pointed out earlier, right? Substack has a lot of writers, first time writers, wannabe writers. Substack is a writer community. And even more than that, bigger reader community. So they're looking for books. Like my 2006 list of books I want to read are going to be Substack first time authors, really, which is amazing because that kind of shows you how strong the community is. But for somebody who's written or want to write this book, kind of you can go through all the limitations that one goes through to write a book or produce something, a creative project, anything for that. You can go through this and then tackle each one of them and then incrementally kind of get there. So I think it's really relevant from that perspective.
And it's interesting. I mean, I don't know when you want to talk about the journey of writing a book. Is that you
You want
want
to
to
get
do
to
that
it?
now? Okay, we'll get.
Yeah, I want to get to the marketing. And there was a good, so you mentioned how you, got people to endorse. I mean, you had for best-selling authors endorse it. But yeah, how was the journey of getting this book out there?
So I went and I used Reedsy in the beginning to go and find an editor, right? So,
Read C.
yeah, reedsy.com. And I looked at Reedsy because I was like, I had somebody who did a book and he was like, hey, I use Reedsy to find an editor. I was like, okay, because I went and I wanted to find out what the whole journey is because as a consultant, I love research. So I'm like, okay, who did it? Who did it best? What's it take to do this? How many copies do you have to sell and everything? So I did it as a business process, not just a, hey, let's just give this a shot, hope for the best. I was like, I want to know what success looks like. So I went and I took time to go and understand, and I interviewed a bunch of editors and I asked them for sample chapters. They asked me. Now, I wrote my book verbally. So I word vomited into, back then it was just really using Chrome and just recording my voice because, again, it was 14 years ago, right? There wasn't this great technology that there is like Otter and other things now that are actually accurate. So the words were all over the place 14 years ago. You're like,
Yeah.
that's not what I said. So I took that and I was like, I had these just long paragraphs with no breaks in it. And I threw it over to an editor and they were like, this isn't good enough. I'm like, well, that's why I need an
You're not
editor.
paying us enough.
Exactly. I was like, they were like, you need a developmental editor. I was like, I don't know what that is. They're like, oh, they help you before the editor even looks at it. I was like, oh, remedial math. Okay, I get it. So I got to go back to, so I had to learn all about this process. Now, again, people that have written books are like, Mark, why did you not get this? Because it wasn't what I did, right? It was me learning. So I'm learning, but I also understood. So I interviewed a lot of people and they were like, no, they're like, do you want a co-writer? I was like, or do you want a ghostwriter? I was like, no. And this was before AI. And by the way, the book was not written with AI. I want to make sure I clarify that. And even if
Disclaimer.
I was writing today, I would not have used AI because I want it to sound like me. So fast forward, editor, finally find one in the UK. And I was like, oh, I got to go out of the country. I felt like I was one of those doctors that can't get a degree here. You're like, I got to find some country that'll take my English. Right? So I look and I find somebody and I tried to talk them out of it multiple times. I was like, you sure you want to work with me? I'm a first time author. I'm from America. I've got this really strong personality. I have really high expectations.
Talk about your butts.
And I'm like, and I tried to talk her out of it multiple times. I was like, you don't want to work with me because I'm going to be tough on both of us. And I don't care what you say, what I do wrong. I will do it till it gets it right. And she's like, nope. And she worked with me 18 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, from cover design and the editorial and us sending copies back and forth and then tracking that. What a process to go and track all the edits and what's going on. And then go and get, because I wanted to look and act like a real book, I wanted to make sure that we had footnotes. I was like, what's the best way to do this? How do we make sure we validate this information? How do we verify these stories? How do we go through? So even registering with the Library of Congress and getting my own ISBN numbers and having it on Ingram and making sure that it could be distributed. Because I've sold copies, just so you know, Raj, I don't know if I told you, in Italy, Sweden, and Brazil, as well as the United States. Right?
Wow.
So I did not know that a book that's only in English would be picked up in other countries and why people would have picked it up. So,
yeah.
And I have it in multiple formats. So I have it on Apple with ebooks. I have it on Kindle. I started with hardbound because I wanted people to physically have it.
Yeah.
So we could do signings, which you have. I also have paperback, and I'm going to be doing an Audible read that I read because as a speaker, it should be my voice.
Absolutely.
So,
but all this through the UK editor that you found. Did you found her through Reedsy?
Yeah, I found her through Reedsy. I found her. She did a sample. I actually looked back at the sample I got in the beginning, and it's nothing like what turned out in the end, which was totally different because then she had multiple editors that could work on it and then proofreaders and book designers. So there was a whole team that worked on it. But here's the difference. Some people can pay Forbes Books or whoever to go and just do a book. Hey, here's 20 grand or whatever, do a book. What I wanted to, it wasn't about the money. It was about, I want to understand the process. They didn't do anything with marketing. That was all on me. But I had advanced reader copies. I had PDFs to be able to send. I had sample chapters. I had ways to track it because I have a CRM. So I'm not the typical author who just writes books. I'm a business guy who wrote a book. So I knew how to find out how many pages people read when I posted my advanced reader copy up. I knew how to go and be able to track and make sure that we followed up with that person and get video recordings of them saying they liked it or not, or actual endorsements or things to put on LinkedIn so there was a lot of other moving pieces. And I think that's where a lot of authors that I hear have the toughest time because creative people don't always enjoy marketing. They enjoy the writing process.
Right.
Me, I enjoy the marketing almost better than the writing, but I enjoy someone saying, wow, can I have a copy of your book or can you sign it? And by the way, this is how it affected me and the outcomes.
That's yeah. I think being a marketer definitely gave you that edge in terms of knowing, even just doing the research, right? I mean, a lot of us struggle with that because we don't know where to go. There's so many options out there. Um, but this UK editor kind of helped you with the world release as well, right? I mean, it's not, it was, or that was you. That was all you. Oh, wow.
It was
Okay.
all me. So
So you're
here's the
just
thing.
editing. Mm.
Yeah. So it was really editing. It was book design. It was layout. It was the cover, but everything else, and these were the lessons learned. I could write a book on how to
I was
not
just thinking
be.
about that.
Oh,
You
God.
should write a book about
Ooh.
the process because you've learned so many things. And again, it doesn't have to be a book; it could be a Substack. But
Well, then somebody's got to help me with that because I could do a brain dump on how I have so many
somebody
ISBNs.
wants to help you.
I bet they do. So the lessons of buying 10 ISBNs from Bowkers and then going, and because I wanted different types of books, right? So I wanted a hardcover with a dust jacket, and then you need an ISBN for that. And then
Hmm.
I worked with, so each one of these things I learned where everybody else that does this would be like, why would you not know that? I was like, because I learned by doing. So knowing the ISBNs, knowing if you do distribution worldwide through Amazon, that Ingram doesn't allow you to be able to use the same ISBN. Like I had so many
So much to
things, and
learn.
then trying to get into Barnes and Noble, and they're like, unless you have somebody that promotes you, you don't get into Barnes and Noble. So I also realized that most people don't sell more than 100 copies of their book lifetime.
Hmm.
So I look
That's
at
a
that.
statistic. That is a
Yeah.
statistic.
Yep. 60% of people that buy books don't read them. I've found that multiple statistics on that. They aspirationally buy books. They think they're going to go read them. Sometimes they go to an event because they want to support somebody, but they don't read books. They sit on their shelves. And then I heard that first time authors read about this, and it's like they don't sell 100 copies. And some people that are successful sell 5,000 over the lifetime, but most people don't sell 1,000. Very small percentage of people sell 1,000. So I'm coming up on, I've always sold more than 100 within the first week. I didn't do pre-sales. I thought about that too. And they're like, well, do you have an email list big enough to support your pre-sale that you can go and do that? And I didn't. So I learned about that. But, all this was not what the book was supposed to be about. But this is what people ask you about, right?
Mhm.
Because when you do something, and this is, I think, a huge valuable lesson, when you do something, people are going to ask you about what they care about, not what you care about. So I don't want to talk about the book process, but people are like, you got to tell me about it. And
Yeah.
because I like helping people, I'm like, let me tell you what I know. And then because I'm like, tell me but you overcame. You're like, well, I'm writing a book because of you. I was like, okay, well, that's an endorsement.
Yeah, because it's not you bumped, and we talked about, again, this is a little
It's
bit,
use of my prioritized time.
yeah, coined word from Marc. Marc calls it Wolfisms. It's throughout those books of these nuggets of things you could remember.
Mhm.
But bumped is best use of your prioritized, right,
Yeah,
time.
best use of my prioritized time,
Yeah,
which
so
means
writing about the process is not currently your bumped.
no,
But
it's
maybe
not.
it could be mine. I don't know.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's why. So I try to bring other people along with me because I was like, hey, if this is your thing, I'd be happy to help you with your thing. Like I
yeah,
love helping things kick off, but I want it to have an impact because I don't like things that start and don't finish. So I want to know what done looks like. And what do I mean by that? I was like, okay, what does this success? People will ask you questions all the time. Just like
Hmm.
a toddler will ask you questions all the time. Now, because they're building up a database of information to understand things, and they also need to know how to interact and ask questions. Now, adults love to pick your brain. And here's what I do when people want to pick my brain. I was like, did you read my book first? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, if you read my book, it's $10 for the digital, it's $17.99 for a paperback, and it's $24.99 for a hardback. I was like, start there, and whatever questions it doesn't answer, I'll be happy to ask. And if people are like, well, that's a little pushy, isn't it? I was like, pushier than asking for an hour of my time for a cup of $3 coffee is less pushy than asking someone to read your book and ask you questions that it didn't answer. I
Hmm.
I just think that it shows that somebody wants to give and support you, not for the $10, right? As I don't get $10 from that $10. What it shows is they're willing to do something. And
Yeah,
if you don't put a barrier, everybody will own your time to the point where there is no time. And then you have yeah, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
Even people that want to get stray cats and help the world still have to have time for themselves to recharge. And they also have to know what the best use of their time is.
Yeah. And this is all coaching 101, right? And this is basically, you don't coach anybody with saying, okay, I'm going to give you all the answers, but you got to do the work. You got to take the step, and then you kind of match it with another action, a result, an outcome, and then you kind of work through it. So it's incremental. And so I get it. I get the fact that people want all the answers, but not willing to take the steps necessary to get there or go through that journey. I want to quickly talk about, you talked about, having this editor in UK, which you found, and then, found out ways to publish it in multiple countries. Affordability, like in terms of the amount, did you spend a lot of money here? I mean, one of the things that first-time authors, especially on Substack, I mean, not a lot of money to spend. So again, prioritizing where you spend your money. I mean, do you have any quick lessons learned on that?
Yes. Spend $750 or more to $1,000 on the cover. If you don't, good luck. Because I'll tell you, there's some really well-written books that have horrible, horrible covers, and it makes you look unprofessional. And I'm just telling you, people do buy a book by its cover. I don't care how small it is. It's a little icon, a little thumbnail on Amazon or somewhere else. I wanted my book to look, I picked the red on purpose because there were some really good business books that were red. And I was like, I wanted to stand out. So I went to the bookstore, and then I had so much control. I could have made it matte versus glossy. I could have went and did it. And in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I want that hardcover. It reminds me of a school book I used to read, when it's glossy school book. But then I looked at some of the matte ones. So I went to the bookstore. I was like, what catches my attention? Right? Which ones really stand out to me? And again, depends on your genre, right? I mean, there's people, romance and horror and a lot of other stuff are there. Like, it's going to be completely different. It's usually the guy with all the abs that are on the romance novel. So yeah, you can make that any color, but that wasn't my market. But I knew that business books that had a certain color and had large text and everything else. So I looked and I was like, this is what. So I wanted to model it. I got 15 different covers back from my editor or my designer. Yeah. And I looked and I actually narrowed it down. And then I went on LinkedIn and I said, pick these two. And the funny thing is that if you look at the cover, right, and it has the but, you see the but is written out, it's scratched out. So I had it voted on. So once I narrowed it down and I spent money and I had it, I was like, vote on if we remove the but or keep the but in there. Because it was, I said it was overcoming the buts. It was almost split. People were like, keep the but there. And I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if you're going to overcome the but, you should get rid of it. But they were like, so it actually was tipped in the favor of
scratching it out. Yeah.
But it's stuff like that gets people involved and gets people thinking about it, and you can hear what they're going to say and things like that. And I had advisors that asked, they asked questions too, and I looked at books. So I think that's where people sometimes go, I'm just going to go on Canva and I'm going to go and create it. And that's fantastic, but it better look so darn good that you could put it on somebody, New York Times bestselling authors, and they wouldn't know the difference. Now, I'm still not thrilled with my cover. I like it, but I know it could be better. So when I do a revision and everything, I will revise the cover and change it, maybe putting my name on the bottom instead of the top or some things like that. But I mean, those are tweaks. But no one looked at my cover and goes, this looks like crap, even though people didn't know me. I asked them, I'd be like, what do you think? Right? That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is, I think that's important is, I know that editing, you can make your book. Again, these are writers that want it to sound a certain way because that's the proper English to be able to do it, or whatever their native tongue is. I wanted it to sound like me, as if when I'm reading it. So there's part of this book is not grammatically perfect. So I wrote it in the style when you read it, it's not awkward where you're like, this doesn't make sense, but it's the same way I speak. I wanted that, required that, needed that. Now, if you go to a traditional publishing house, they won't let you get away with that. They're going to be like, this is the way it's written. These are the way the chapter titles are going to be. This is the way we're going to do it. By self-publishing, I have control to be able to do that. It followed standards, but it just wasn't stripped to make it so sanitized that it started to be Englishly, grammatically perfect. People read it and said, I can hear you saying these words.
You had more creative control by
Yeah,
self-publishing.
but you have creative control, but I wanted to make sure authors know it needs to sound like you. You should be able to read it out loud and people, and then if it wasn't your book and you're reading it, they're like, I don't see any difference from you reading it and you saying it. I don't know how many authors do that, but my book needed to be like that. Now, if you're telling a story and it has nothing to do, that's different, right? But it still should be your.
So your New York accent comes through.
Yes. Yeah. So that was the other thing. And I think, getting your own ISBNs and not using the free ones from Amazon because you have creative control. I actually started my own publishing company because I wanted to have it published under my company. So it is, and that created a whole ISBN fund because Amazon wants to say it's an Amazon book. And I was like, no, it's a Logic Catalyst Press because that's my company. And so, but again, we live and learn.
Yeah.
No fatal errors there.
What was the most, was that all, was it more expensive to kind of create your own publishing company, or is it?
No. The most expensive part is the editing.
The editing.
And the design of the cover. And the printing is print on demand, right? So, and that's what Ingram does anyhow. So any book that you're going to get, unless you're going through some place where they're like, hey, buy 5,000 and they're $1.58 a piece. You're like, oh, and you keep them in your garage. No, they keep them in a warehouse and you pay for storage every month for all the books that they pre-printed for you. So you buy them in bulk. These are print on demand. And it's funny, I actually leverage that because if you look in the back of your book and you look at the last page, it'll give you a born on date, right? It'll literally say where that book was born.
Huh. So you noticed that. I didn't get to the last page yet.
Okay. So it'll give you a date and it'll tell you when the book was printed. It's in the bottom.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Was 24 January 2025.
Yeah, because that's when it came out. You got one of the first copies that came out in January of 2025. So that book is printed on demand. When somebody orders one copy, they print one copy for you.
I like that.
Mail it. Yeah. So the cool part about that is I had somebody that was a tech guy, and he's like, this book was just printed 5 days ago for me. Like, he was surprised. And so I leveraged that. I was like, you're getting this book. Huh. It's actually made for you. It looks the same as if I made 100 of them or shipped out 1,000 of them. And they did that for you. And he was like, oh, that's wild. I was like, yeah. So, and with Ingram, you can even do more. I can actually customize it, put logos and stuff if I'm doing an event and put things in there.
Perfect. Let's talk about, I know, we've got 15 minutes left. I want to get through some of these important questions that came prior to you coming on. Somebody who's struggling to sell 100 copies, let's say, a first-time author. The struggle, it seems to be the reach. Now, you still have a huge Instagram, LinkedIn following, and most of your clientele, who you have coached. So you had a sizable audience to tap into, to market it, to broadcast it. Your email list, you said maybe you had many of those. But how do somebody who doesn't have all that, like, where do they focus on, like, in terms of finding the right audience for them? Are there any tricks or tips that you have on how they would nurture that, or is that just trial and error?
So, first, people that buy your book, again, I can only speak from a nonfiction business book, right? So I can't talk about romance or horror because there's all groups you can be part of where you swap books and you actually review each other's books and you have advanced copies and you get people to buy. So I didn't do all that, right? I didn't go into the business book blog group and say, hey, I'll review your book, you review mine. I probably could have. I just had to focus on where I thought I was most comfortable. And what I did is I started months before saying I was the author of the upcoming book, X, Y, and Z, right? So but I knew the title. I said I was the author of the upcoming book. I changed all my socials to that. And then I created sample chapters, or at least I read sample chapters where I could be like, hey, here's this is coming. So you create buzz. Every movie you've ever seen does the same thing. Create the soundtrack. They tell you it's coming. You hear about movies that literally it says the rating hasn't been done yet because it's a year in advance. So if you're not advance promoting it, by the time you're out with your book, people are like, "Oh, I thought you already came out with your book." Like they're gonna have heard about it so many times.
Hmm.
That's helped because people are like, I was like, "Well, do you have a copy?" Right? And then that's when the advanced reader copies went out, and I said, "Hey, do you want to get, can we get you in front of other people saying what you said about the book or reviewing it, etc." The other thing is like, I think that, yeah, I have almost 5,000 connections on LinkedIn and I'm not an open LinkedIn networker. So I know these people where if they're going to reach out to me, I'm like, hey, what do you want to talk about? Or how can I help you? So you can have 15 or 20,000 people on LinkedIn if you just accept everybody, but then there's people trying to sell you something. So they're really not going to be good at buying something from you. Uh, but a lot of people, I did not use TikTok, right? Because I'm just not on TikTok, and you don't ever want to see me dance. I did the Macarena at the wedding, my wedding one. And no, that video is still hidden. So there's different places. So yeah, on socials, but you got to pick a social that you really think is your audience. And
Yeah.
LinkedIn is my business audience. Instagram is my backup because there's a lot of people that are different, and Facebook, crazily, are my non-business people that are my age or different, but will support you because they know you. So knowing your audience in different places knows what you want. The business group needs to do it because then there's potential income and business there. The other group, like on Facebook, is people who like me and support me and we're like, this is really good and
Hmm.
I can use it personally. Great. Selling 100 copies, what I saw a lot of people do well was have like pre-buys, or if you do this, you get a free video, a free class, free something that you offer as a bonus. People love bonuses. So if you're doing it, again, I'm speaking for a business book and you're like, hey, here's these worksheets, here's other stuff, here's a deeper dive. Hey, if you buy 20 copies or 30 copies, I can do a Zoom call for you and your group. Hey, if you want to do a book club, I can do X, Y, and Z for your book club if you go and buy enough copies. Hey, if I do a speech or a talk for you, you don't have to pay as much. We could just do it in some copies and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So there's plenty of
Benefit.
ways
Yeah.
to do it. Again, AI can do a much better job of explaining for your niche
Yeah.
what to do. But
Yeah. So what I'm hearing also is it's less about the delivery mechanism or the media or the channel. It's more about the strategy that you employ. Like Larry just pointed out, the creating that necessary anticipation before the event, the previews. You used book launches. I mean, after the fact. I mean, you had a pre-book launch and you had a post-book launch,
Mhm.
and so there are all those strategies that again could
Yeah.
could be
I
stuff
had
that you
50
could.
people at the book launch. So I had a book launch where somebody let me use their space in downtown Franklin, Tennessee to go and have 50 people during spring break come where everybody was not in town. And I still had 50 people show up. So that was great. And they had to still buy copies of the book. And I did it and signed it. There wasn't a giveaway. I've had other people sponsor it and give away copies where they wanted me at their business to be able to do it. But I'm not afraid to speak in front of people.
Hmm.
But other authors could just read a chapter of their book or do something else. So I've had landmark booksellers host an event for me here, and we pack the place with people at a local bookstore. So there's ways. I just think you got to not be afraid to ask and hear no, and you got to
Hmm.
not be afraid to go in with another author that's adjacent to you and say, "Can we do a collaborative event?" Like I'm
Yeah.
just not afraid to just be like, "Let's try it."
Yeah. No, that's great. I think you use all those, and it's valuable again for you to share that with a lot of people because, like you said earlier, I mean, these are the basic things that people are wanting to know. It's just simpler things, which again, your book is great to figure out what that is
Mhm.
because it is about plan. You have hey. Yeah, but I don't have a plan, and so your chapter about the planning talks about strategizing and not over planning, and you give
I
case
got a
studies.
podcast too, Raj. I forgot about that.
No. I was going to get to the podcast. Now, you in the whole book, you just stole my segue, but in the whole book, you have what is referenced to podcast episodes
Mhm.
of people that you interview and even case studies. So your podcast was also pre-planned in a way, right? You
Before the
rec-
book came out. Before the book came out,
before
I
the
had a podcast because I was like, how are people going to know about the book if you don't have a podcast? I never did a podcast before either, but I know how to speak. So I tried a podcast and I interviewed ex-CIA agents and people that got people out of human trafficking, people I knew, people I interacted with, and then complete strangers that had really cool stories and talked about my book and their yeah buts. How cool is that? And I got a whole season coming up, Raj, that
Yeah.
talked about there's NFL Super Bowl champions that are talking about their yeah buts. I've got people that are CIOs of universities that were also
Yeah.
in the military and also were skateboarders. Like I got some great stories of people's yeah buts.
So the new season is coming out when?
It's supposed to be January. So I have these. That's the biggest. So here, you know what's tougher than a book? Editing and then doing a podcast. It's a lot easier to be on podcast than it is to have your own.
So the book was the easy part. Now, when you look back, the book was the easy part, which you took a decade or more to write it and figure it out and 18 months to produce it. But that sounds like, the stuff that you got to do. Now the next, I guess the most obvious question is when is the next book? Because you said, now what? Is a 16 chapter. And now what for, Marc would be another book coming up?
It's, you know what, we gotta ride this train until the end of the station. So, I didn't have my audiobook out, which will revive it. I didn't do an end of the year promotion. I never sold it for 99 cents. That's another thing that people do. So I became a bestseller without actually reducing my price. So it was bestseller in multiple categories. And it's still, I can move it quickly by selling, like getting people to buy directly through there instead of me shipping some books.
Tell me about pricing quickly. You didn't sell it for 99 cents. And a lot of authors I know do that. And Kindle Unlimited is free. Your thoughts on that?
So I read a lot of information about that where people were saying, hey, you can do Kindle Unlimited. So they what's your strategy? Do you want to just get the book downloaded? Or do you want people to read it? People read and things more likely to read things when they purchase them with their own money. So when you buy something in your brain, Seth Godin talked about this a long time ago. Some difference between free and $1, you actually have to think about and go, is this really worth $1 for me to do it versus free? So when you spend money, there's a better chance somebody's going to read the book. So that's why I didn't just have it, but I still got everything I needed to. Bestseller status, hundreds and hundreds of copies sold. Want to come up on 1,000 copies. Hopefully by next year, we'll have over 1,000 copies sold, which puts us in the top 10% of books sold, right? Like of first-time authors. And that's without promotion. Oh, by the way, you can spend $1,000 to $3,000 a month on promotion, and you can buy Google AdWords. And I probably could have sold way more books, but I didn't. Why? I don't know. I wanted to try it organically. And it's probably not the best thing. I think if you do spend money on AdWords and do the right thing, I only entered in one contest for literacy contest, like Writer's Digest or Writers something. I paid to do that, but I got a great review. They said, this sounds like a guy who really cares about his subject and so I'm going to put it up on my Amazon. Yeah. I did not win, but there was 1,400 other books. I'm okay with not winning. So there's things that you could do to amplify and be able to do it better. You can't do it all, man.
Yeah, but pricing is key though, right? And pricing.
Oh yeah, so I picked the price because I wanted the hardback, which I came out by itself in the beginning, to be more expensive than the paperback, which I delayed by a bunch of months to wait to get the paperback. And then I did the ebook and then the Kindle and we've still sold more hardcovers and paperbacks. Some physical books we've still sold more than digital.
Amazing.
Even in other countries.
In different languages, right?
No, only in English.
It's all in English.
Tell me about American. I don't speak English. Yeah, speak American.
But that's a good question. I kind of imagine that it would be in local languages, but is that a whole different ballgame?
Oh, that's a whole different ballgame. Yeah, you'd have to get it translated and reformatted and everything else, and be able to do that. So, or at least I don't know. I mean, maybe you can take the Kindle version and it'll translate it, but again, I got to go to where the biggest market is, not the alt markets, because then you could just be chasing the rabbit.
You know how to find out what's happening around the world is talk to Alicia. Alicia, who I don't know are you on the? Can you see her message?
No, I cannot. I can't see anybody's message. Am I missing a lot of good stuff?
Yeah, a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, I think these go off after you close the thing. But But Alicia's saying, she refuses to read digital books. She wants a book in hand. So, basically what you said. But she also looks for books in English as she travels. She's a globe-trotting house sitter. I'd done an episode on her.
Oh yeah, I heard about it.
Uh, yeah. So she looks for books in English. So I guess that makes sense that you're writing in English and not translating it.
Yeah, I mean, I just do what I know how to do, and I just figured the biggest market would be, and I think when I look at Ingram and its distribution channel, that anybody can buy it anywhere, then I'm just like, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to do a gig in Australia, so I'm actually have somebody I know in Australia, so I'm trying to have them buy enough books that it pays for me to. I'll go for free, but I'll go and speak in Australia. It worked when I went to Hawaii. I actually did a speaking gig in Hawaii before I had the book. So
Yeah.
I think authors, if you really know how to market well, you can actually get people really excited about something where you're like, I will go here and
Yeah.
you will just buy books. You got to ask.
Yeah. So I know we've got about 2 minutes left, but I don't know how much longer you can stay.
I have
beyond that.
time for you, Raj. You love
You
long
do?
form, and we got a crowd. They have not dropped off. I'm impressed.
I keep thinking you're bumped. I'm like, you're prioritized time.
No, this is good. I got a presentation later on today that I'm working on, and AI is helping me rough up myself to be a lot tougher on myself about getting stuff done. I think that, so let's talk about the podcast for a second, though.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
So I started this podcast and I've done 18 episodes, and whenever I meet somebody interesting, so there's been people come up and go, hey, I got this business and I want to talk to you about this. And I was like, not really my audience. My audience is business people, right? Executives, because that really want change, right? They're usually in charge of other people. They own a business. They're doing something where they're in charge of leadership. Why leadership? Because you have to lead yourself and then lead others if you're going to do well in leadership. And if you think about it, you're just like, what do I need to do now that's different? So hearing from other people other than Marc would be great. So when you hear from somebody who's a New York Times bestselling author and you interview them, or you hear from a CEO of an organization, or you hear somebody in sales and they talk about their yeah buts, it makes it relatable to those other people. That's what my podcast is about. And that's why my friend Raj has said to me multiple times, Marc, you got to do more about your podcast. And I was like, Raj, it's another thing to do. It's an alternative thing to do, but it's a creative outlet that takes a lot of energy. And until I get it where it's,
you got the help, the support. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's good. It's exciting. I like that I do videos for each one. I think that's another thing. I think every author should be doing more videos, and a lot of authors don't, even including me, who's not afraid to speak, still don't have enough videos of myself out there. So that's the thing. The more videos you do, the more people see you, the more they feel like they know you, because they consume video more than they consume books. Most people, at least that I interact with, given the medium that they want, in the way that they want, at the frequency that they are willing to consume. I watch my clips that I do, my 45 to 1 minute clips on my book or my podcast get consumed significantly more than complete episodes.
Right? I agree. Yeah.
So you got to deliver in the way people want you to deliver.
Yeah, and Larry is saying that you have your actual readers very well figured out. Which again, Larry, I think that's because Marc's book kind of originated with his readers in a way, right? I mean, it came out of the need to share his teachings through all those conversations as a coach. So, Marc's journey started with his readers in a way. Or his community for that matter, and then keep the book. Yours, Larry, you've written a book. Larry's written a book. It's already been published. It's called Myself Lost. And he, I think I talked about it in the last live where, he's written a fictional book about this person who goes to India and then experiences India, right? And Larry's always wanted to go to India. He never got the chance to do it. And then he wrote the book. And Larry's working on 4 other books. But I think these tips that you're sharing kind of just helps somebody like Larry too, even though he's in the fictional world, to kind of figure out how do you preemptively kind of build that, I guess,
it's a community, but it's also, here's the thing. Collaboration is so underutilized. So how do you get somebody, and I'm always ideating, thinking like, who else would be cool to do this? So I love music, right? I'm not a musician, but I love music. So I was just like, I want to help create a yeah but song. And it sounds like, well, what would it be? I was like, it would be reading the chapters. It would be done in a way where there would be some words and talking about it. Because there's things from your childhood, Raj, if I brought up, I'd be like, remember the song when you were 6? And you're like, I know every word. I was like, when the last time you sung that? You're like, well, last time somebody asked me because I haven't thought about it in decades.
Yeah.
Music helps people remember things. So I was like collaborating with somebody about music for your book, collaborating in a way where maybe it's an author that does something completely different than you and you collaborate, not to write a book, but to market. You're like, well, that's really odd. I'm like, it's odd because not everybody does it or because they didn't think of it and I did. Right. I like to look at things from an alternative view with an outcome based on what could be possible if you do something different. Imagine working with somebody who's a fiction writer and looking, and they'd be like, "Oh, your book's fiction." I was like, "No, both of our books are about thinking different." And let me tell you a quick story about fiction. So, my daughter reminds me because all I ever used to read was magazines and stuff. What was about always thinking about clients can ask me a question, I have to have the answer or find a way to get them the answer. And my daughter, who's in her 20s, said to me, she's like, Dad, why don't you just read for fun? I was like, well, I feel like if I'm reading for fun, I'm not reading stuff that can help me in my business. And she's like, but you understand that reading for fun helps you open your mind, be able to do things. She's like, I listen to audiobooks all the time. So I was like, okay. So I listened to The Goldfinch because my wife is doing it. It's like 32 hours book, right? And it is an amazingly there's a book where it's up in the Northeast and it's about this painting that like got lost and everything else, but it's captivating and it's a bestseller. But I couldn't believe I listened to a 32-hour book. Seriously. But what I learned from it is that I got to escape and do that. So imagine taking Yeah But and imagine taking somebody who had a Yeah But story to write their book and imagine collaborating with them to say, hey, tell me about your Yeah But story. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't want to write this book and I was afraid and everything. I was like, oh, and my book's about overcoming that. Imagine collaborating and doing something, whatever that is. I think people miss that opportunity and go, I didn't know that was possible. I was like, why not? Like, what could that look like?
Yeah.
What's the worst that happens? You get a new friend? Like, I just think if you look at life that way, there's just always ways and opportunities, Raj. That's why I'm on this, why I'm on this Substack. I'm just like, why not?
Yeah. And I think Substack has a really good community that wants to kind of collaborate with each other. And one of my suggestions to Larry when we talked was, just start talking about his book, revealing his characters or talk about the plot, kind of build that on Substack using Live, which I think it's a good way to get to know the author, get to know the book. So there are so many creative ways you can do it. And I think Substack for fiction writers especially, I think is a great opportunity or gold mine kind of to tap into, like trying to find creative ways. And who knows, maybe Mark, you'll get some readers out of Substack. There is definitely a big reader community.
Well, so you're supposed to do what I learned being an author is that you're really supposed to support other authors. So if you look behind, it's like these are books that I purchased from other authors that are local because I wanted to support other authors.
Yeah.
And then I go on Goodreads and then I put that I'm reading it. And then I actually go through the book and I like audiobooks and physical. My favorite are that if I have both versions, I can actually listen to it and then highlight in a book because it's a way for me to absorb information at a faster rate, but also have a physical copy. I've heard it works for other people too, but I was like, me reading a book is great. Me listening to a book, because I'm really I'm a verbal processor, works where I get both ways to do it. So I think buying copies of other people's books is a way to show that you actually give a crap about somebody. Where I think people and that goes back to if you want my time, show me you actually care enough about what I say to actually do something. Post a picture of you with the book. Right? Read one chapter, right? And if you don't, what you're basically doing is giving me the middle finger and going, I just want free stuff from you, or I just want free time from you without me doing anything for you. I was like, that just does not sound very go-giver of me or you, right? So.
But Larry says he's going to buy your book. So, because he wants to know. I really think this is a self-help for anybody who wants to accomplish anything. And I know you didn't want to call it a self-help book, but in a way, it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is going to help you overcome all those limitations that in different points of time. So the podcast, um,
The Yeah But podcast. That's
where
on
can they
every
find? Where can people
platform.
find
And
it? Yeah.
yeah, so if you type in Yeah But, and that's with one T, if you type in two T's, that you're on your own. Okay. My butt only has one T in it. And you go into YouTube, you go into Spotify, you can watch the video because always record video on it because I want people to see people's faces and reactions. And then of course on Apple and every place else. And I think that, I am building because I haven't done enough episodes. It's only been 18. I'm building a community there of people. And Spotify just did their awards, right? Where they do these little things that kind of do the summaries.
Yeah.
And they said that I was in the top 30% for people that actually listen to the whole episode. I was like, okay.
Wow.
So that's the thing that I'm just like, okay, that's kind of a brag to be able to do. So people are listening to it all the way through. There's a lot of people that subscribe and can listen to multiple episodes. So you get little wins when you can. Remember, I don't want to be Joe Rogan or anybody. I don't want to have the podcasting. Raj thinks I should do more podcasting,
I do.
and I'm sure it's going to be fun. But Raj, if I can make it as easy as, you write a book, you market a book, it would be great. If you did a podcast and it just flowed, which I'm trying to get to, I'd be happy. I love the interviewing process. I love the conversation. No.
I'm taking one of those earbuds and like, yeah, what if I don't have a plan? And that's how I started Substack Live, where I don't have a plan. I just know I have a lot of people that I really admire their writing and I've been following for a lot of time. You're the first, person coming on live who I've known for so long, right? Since 2011, right?
Wow.
I've seen your journey. So, but to get to you, I had to work on some of those, to be a decent enough interviewer who listens and not interrupts. I had to get some street credit. And then, I have all those folks who I know I have pulled in to come on live,
Yeah.
like Larry and Alicia, and Flavio. They're all here. Every one of them I met in the last 1 month. Like, I've known them, but I've actually met. So
I love it.
I
I
didn't
love being
overthink
on your
this.
journey. This is great. And the thing is that, I didn't have enough time to pre-promote it and tell other people and cross-promote it and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that once you get to the point where you want that, I can always promote this on LinkedIn, or we can do a review of it so people know about it. I'm selfish. I mean, I'm unselfishly happy to promote anything that I believe in.
Thank you. One thing on promotion, I think you mentioned this earlier, like YouTube shorts, and these clips that you produce. I'm seeing the value in that because every time I put YouTube clips on YouTube, like the ones with Alicia, ones with Larry, and I've been posting more and more. I'm crossing like 1,000 views and like 6 likes. I've never gotten so much of engagement on anything, but YouTube and Instagram is a little more of a personal community. Like, it doesn't reach as much people that fast. I think it has more marination time. But the YouTube stuff is really going fast. I mean, I'm seeing that trend go up. 7,000 views, and stuff that Ayush and I talked about, stuff that Larry and I talked about. All those things are just blowing up on YouTube. So I think that is one, and that's what I like about Substack Live, because you can just publish everything right onto YouTube. They create these little clips automatically, talk about saving time and bumped. I like Substack Live, and I've told you this offline. It just creates a lot of these things, and I don't have to overthink it. And then so my like, again, going back to my tips for Larry or somebody who's doing something on Substack is just come on live and just go and find your audience. And then also all the tips that Mark's shared today, which hopefully he'll write a book about, or I will extract it out of him and create a whole new Substack about how to market your book. Because I think there's a lot more you have learned as a marketer than the stuff that I see on Substack, which is people who have a different perspective. Right? I mean, they're
I'm not trying to sell
authors.
anything. I'm not trying to sell you my services. So I'm telling you what I did. There's other people that are out there that know a lot, and they're like, pick me because they know how to market things. So yeah, I could tell you mistakes I made, but you can also buy a package from somebody who will do it all for you. I just love the learning part, and maybe that's a fatal flaw that I actually enjoy learning more than I enjoy. I love the outcome, but I don't want to hand it off and abdicate it to the point where I'm like, "Oh, just tell me how it turns out." Like I'm not that bougie. Like I just
Yeah.
don't do that. So
Yeah. And then you and I talked about a lot of AI tips, how to use certain tools. Maybe the next time we do live, we'll talk about tools.
sure, I love
The kind
tools.
of
Yeah,
stuff that
yeah,
I'm using now that you're suggested and all the other things. So maybe we'll do it in parts as live. I don't know. Maybe
sure.
that's a good
This
way
would
to
be
do it.
great. Yeah.
Any questions for Mark before we let him go? He's graciously extended his time by 15 minutes. But Larry, anything self-published? Yeah, self-published authors need someone like Mark. That's Larry's comment.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean
Uh,
I joined the community too. I joined ALLI, ALLI. It's the Association of some kind of literary some. I'd used AI to be like, what's the best one of those groups to
hmm,
join as a self-published author? And I went on and they have discounts and they have other things and they had even stuff about understanding Ingram better. So I think there's a lot of stuff I could
yeah,
learn. But
yeah,
again, it's not my business to get to the point like that. I just want to be able to understand it
yeah,
enough. So, like, kind of any 20-year-old, you watch a
yeah.
video, you're like, I understand enough to do this. Boom, done. That's it.
Yeah. What is the name of that website? Then maybe if you remember. If you don't
Uh,
remember, that's fine. I want to put it out there. And what is the best way to get to your stuff? Is it
uh,
marketable.com?
oh, yes, the Alliance of Independent Authors. Alliance of Independent Authors. It's,
Okay. So
yep.
join that. That's a good
I
place to
mean,
join.
I just joined it. It has a lot of information in it. It was pretty inexpensive. There's discounts on things. It's a community. You can learn a lot of stuff. And there's like 7, and I wanted to find one, so I used AI to be like, check these against each other. And we should put this as the tool one
Hmm.
because I got like beacons and other things, all these
Yeah,
tools that I've come
we'll
up
do.
with.
Yeah,
I'd be
we'll do an
happy to
episode on
share.
tools.
Yeah, that'd be great. But to what was your last question? I'm sorry, I started thinking.
Your stuff, like what is the
Oh, how to
best
get
way
to
for
me?
people to
Yeah,
know? Yeah.
connect with me on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm Mark Wolfe on LinkedIn. You're going to see my picture. It looks just like me. Or type in Mark Wolfe and yeah, but I should come up. It does a really good job of that. You can put it in the
So
notes. And,
Google Mark Wolf and yeah, but
right,
I
MARCWOLFE. Right, that's it.
got
Right.
that right.
So and then you put that in there. I should come up. I mean, yeah, I can put in the link since you want to. I even have a Substack, but I have not really done it. I just have my.
If I have one goal with you, Mark, that is to get you launched on Substack.
Do you mean I got to write stuff? I mean,
We'll figure it out. We'll find somebody to write it.
okay, yeah, I can write. It's just one of those things that you're like, oh, great. So here's my beacons. I love this. We can have a little. Here's my beacons that gets you to everything that I have.
So I
Um,
like that. Maybe Beacon. So you don't use Linktree. I remember we talked about this. You don't use
I hate
Linktree.
Linktree. It's ugly. It's just, and I used AI. I said, give me
Yeah.
something better. We can save that for the tools tip. But here's the lead in. I found tools that are either free or low cost that are way more effective at almost every aspect of my business.
Hmm.
And because I've been playing with tools since they were on floppy disks. Yes, I'm that old. And I had an Apple Newton, and I still do have it, by the way. I can bring it up and show you. And I also have an 80 megabyte hard drive that I have. So yes, I'm 100 and I have technology that old. But the thing is that I love being able to be more efficient. I love being able to pass along great
Yeah.
restaurants and be able to go to different things. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for people to leverage their time to be able to go and be able to.
Yeah.
And I got plenty of articles. You can put the ones from LinkedIn on Substack for me, Raj. I mean, I'd be happy to. I wrote stuff about the difference between facilitators and moderators. I've written different things about when to use AI and when not to use AI. Like I got a ton of stuff that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with my book.
Yeah, and this Beacon stuff is good because not just for published people who are authors or want to be authors. Anybody who has an Instagram, I see them using Linktree. I don't know, Flavio, if you have one, but Flavio, if he's still here, or Alicia. I mean, you have multiple channels, right? So the Beacon is probably the better way. Mark is saying. to market all your stuff. So you have your photography stuff, you have your Instagram, you have all these different things that, kind of lead to you, and you want it all to be just one link. And that's what Linktree used to be, and I never liked it. I still have it on. I'm going to switch to beacon.ai.
Yep.
And again, Larry, that's another thing for you. Like, you've got 3 more books coming out. Again, you want to build momentum. You want to build that preemptive sort of, hoopla.
Yeah. And the thing is, here's one more thing as we kind of like land the plane, because I do have to go back
You
to
gotta go.
a life that's not on Substack. It's the most I've been on Substack ever.
I'm working on
you.
my goals.
Thank you, Raj. So yes, it is free. So it's the free version is really good to use, but it's definitely, once you see it, Alicia, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, because I always hated the way Linktree was ugly. I just thought it did not present me in the best possible light. And then I found beacons, and then I had my admin put everything in there. And even the free version, you're going to be like, wow. But the paid version is even more powerful. I'm not even on the paid version because I don't want to spend more time playing with a link. You could go and find me on my website. Oh, by the way, I do have a website, but it's all on that beacon. So
yeah, beacons.
So as we land the plane here, think about this. Like, I want to lead people to tip. It's like, you can give away free information all the time. But here's the thing. If I give away something to Larry, to Alicia, to anybody on, let's close the loop. If there's something you did, if there's something that changed, if there's something that came up and you're like, this is really good, share it publicly, right? Go to my LinkedIn and be like, hey, I heard this. Go to my Amazon page, or go to Goodreads and be like, I read this chapter and this was really great. Like, close the loop, because in a world where we have social media and we have things, people nod their heads and go, like, I've had conversations with people and haven't spoken to them for 10 years. And then all of a sudden I'll meet them after forever. And they're like, hey, I heard you had a book, had this, had that. And I'm like, you didn't say anything that I even knew you were a fan. Didn't have any clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, if you would have just told me, hey, I loved your book, that's it. Or, hey, so let's close the loop. If we're going to be authors, writers, or if we're going to be communicators, it's not one-way communication. It's a feedback loop. Yeah. If you do feel something, sense something, even in the chat, that's not enough. That's a good start. Make it public so other people know. That's my big takeaway.
Yeah. Okay. Well said. And I grapple with that all the time. And one of my biggest pet peeves with Substack is that, before doing lives, the engagement, and most of the writers here can, attest to that. We struggle to get people to close the loop. We have so many fans out there, and sometimes I realize, hey, I didn't even know you were reading my Substack or newsletter. Like, nobody says anything. So it's important in this world, especially in this world, with all the distractions going on. We need to build that community that closes the loop. And that, on that note, we got to end this. We are all going to close the loop. Find Marc where he is on his beacons. Find all his beacons, and then and if you read his book, definitely do a review. Close the loop. And this Substack Live, in a way, was me closing the loop on something I started a long time ago, which is, I wanted to talk to Marc about this.
I love it.
Loop, finally.
Thank you, Rush. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you and what you do. And thank you for your community, for being here. And I can't wait to see my clips in all these different places where I'm going to be showing up. So thanks.
Yeah. I'm going to make that 100 look good. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining, and Marc for extending time. This is great. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.